Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Building Loved Businesses, the show where we explore what makes companies truly loved by their employees, their customers, and their communities. I'm your host, Nathan Schock, and today I'm joined by someone who's got a great story that I know you're going to connect with, and I know we're going to learn a lot from. His name is Matt Fitzpatrick. He's a agent with State Farm. And he has a pretty interesting story about how he got there and where he's going in the future. So, Matt, thank you for being here. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.
All right. So just jump in. Tell us, give us a picture of the business today, Matt. Tell me about your agency.
Yeah. So I just wrapped up my 5th year as a State Farm agent, focusing on home, auto, life insurance. I currently have 2 full-time team members, 1 part-time team member. Yeah, we're in a really good spot. I'm, obviously I'll tell you a little bit more about it as we talk, but it's a little bit of a struggle to get to this spot, but I feel like I'm in a great spot right now and just really excited about the future.
Yeah. So you get to do your own thing now, right? You're the boss. But in order to get there, right, you said you've had to overcome some hurdles and you actually left a fairly stable career to get where you are today. Just give us that story. Tell us, give us your background and how you got to be the head of this agency that you are today.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it starts 20 years ago, when I graduated from college and pretty clueless, you graduate and for me, at least, I can only speak for myself. I had no clue what I was going to do, and bounced around different jobs. The common theme was it was always sales oriented. Worked for a few different companies. I actually got out of the sales world and got into coaching. And I was a college basketball coach for 5 years. Actually came back and then was the head high school basketball coach at Davenport Assumption. And then at that time, at the last couple of years of coaching, I got back into sales again. And so what kind of sparked that was I got married, had a kid. I needed to make a little more money. And, your decisions start changing when you start having a family, right? So, and I had a gentleman that worked for State Farm that reached out to me, and he had an opportunity for a State Farm agency. And honestly, I didn't really think much of it at the beginning. I was like, I don't know. I had a good job. I settled in. I just had a daughter, married a couple of years before that, and we were really settling in. And he followed up again, and I just started looking into it and talked to some other people that I trust and another friend of mine that's in the insurance industry. And he just encouraged me, look into it. If this is an opportunity where you can get a book of business and you need to really look into it, could be a great opportunity. So I did a little more investigating and, it was a big leap of faith going into it because I have no insurance background. I've never owned a business. So that was the scary part. But I did feel like this opportunity is pretty safe, really. I mean, taking over a State Farm agency, it's not like I was starting scratch. I did have a book of business and obviously the backing of an incredible company. So I felt like it was a great opportunity and obviously kind of had this vision of what it was going to be. And as day one started, it wasn't exactly what I imagined.
Yeah. Okay. We'll get to there in a minute, but in talking to you before, I know even though to some people that may seem like a crazy path, you had a person that was the through line of this, right? A coach that was very influential in your life. Just maybe share that story about how you went to, the influence he had, how you went to work for him, and then how he helped you find where you are. Yeah.
Yeah. So my connection to this whole thing was my high school coach, Randy Norton. He was my high school basketball coach. Very influential person in my life, him and his wife. I actually lived with him when I was in high school. And always stayed really close with him. Later on, actually, he's the head basketball coach at the University of Alabama, Birmingham. And I actually worked for him for a couple of years. But the connection is when Coach Norton was at Illinois State, he became friends with Larry Nolan, who was a sales leader with State Farm. So Larry and I didn't know each other super well, but Coach Norton and I always had a tight relationship. I had met Larry a little bit. And so that's kind of where it circled back when he became sales leader. He's like, oh, hey, what's Matt Fitzpatrick doing? Reached out to Coach Norton and kind of told him this is where he was at. And then it started that conversation. So, Coach Norton, just an incredible human being, a great father, great coach, great mentor to me. So when Larry called me, and I knew he was tied to Coach Norton, it did carry a lot of weight. I just really have a lot of trust in Coach Norton and a ton of respect for him. So, when Larry reached out, it was easier to take the conversation a little bit more serious.
I talked to so many entrepreneurs, and a lot of them, this won't surprise you, were college athletes, right? And a lot of them can point back to really influential coaches in their life. And so I love hearing those stories about the differences that coaches can make. So how did you feel about that influence when you got into the business and wasn't quite what you thought? No, I won't ask you that, but I know, right, when you first got in, you're like, "Oof, this is hard," right? You didn't have the business background, you didn't have the insurance background, and you jumped in, we're trying to figure this out. So walk us through some of those early years in the business.
Yeah, the first year of being an agent, you basically, it's a 1-year tryout, but you're an independent contractor. So you basically have 1-year tryout, but they're like, go. Okay, find a building, figure out marketing, find staff, and go. And so, you're trying to hire people, but you don't even have a building yet. Your office isn't even open. They can't even Google your business. So there's these challenges with it. So obviously hiring the staff was hard, but you open the door and you just start figuring it out. And, to couple it, I had no insurance background. Obviously I had a very intense internship with State Farm. So it's not like I was going into it completely blind, but I had a ways to go. So, that day one, it was just like, oh my gosh, like I didn't even really know where to start, but I would say, my strength has always been that I'm very competitive and I'm going to figure things out. I am very good at learning things the hard way. I've been that way my whole life. But I've always tried to get a little bit better from that. So that first year was really hard, and I had some tough mistakes from staff to marketing to everything. It was a really big challenge, but I really just kept competing. I kept looking at things in a positive way. I kept improving, growing, and fortunately, State Farm, believed in me. They saw that year, even though I wasn't great that year. I think they saw like, hey, he's going to keep really trying to improve and get better. And unfortunately, I was awarded, a contract to really start my own business and truly be on my own and basically not be overlooked by State Farm. Now I am truly an independent contractor and I can run my business how I want.
Yeah. I want us all to hear something there, right? When you come into a system like that, right, they're going to give you a certain amount of support. They're going to give you a direction, a playbook, and then it's up to you to just outwork it, right? To work hard. And so I know that's a big part of your background and the competitiveness. I remember you even saying, when you were going through considering this, and they said, well, not very many people make it. And that fed your competitive juices of saying, oh yeah, I'll show you. So now you said it was about year 3, right? Where things just started to feel better. And so, you had to stick with it a while. So maybe just walk through then. You went from those challenges, those hard part of it early where you're learning everything from scratch. How did that transition to year 3, and what made you kind of finally realize, oh, all right, I can breathe a little bit. I think we're getting,
Yeah.
I got something here that we can build.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what it is about the year three. I mean, you hear college coaches talk about year three. A lot of people talk about that year three, things start to come together. But I had other agents that have, been good to me and, that I would talk to a lot, and they would say, hey, get to year three. They always would talk about this year three. And while I'm going through, I'm like, okay, it just seemed like it was so much farther away. But yeah, I mean, it was year three where it just like simple tasks that took me a day. Now they only take me a couple minutes. There was just things that you had to go through to learn. And so, yeah, year three came around and it's just like, okay, this is really starting to make sense. I started to understand how State Farm worked. Things, very simple tasks that used to be so complicated and so hard for me were becoming simple now. And I was just becoming much, much more efficient. We still grew those first 3 years, even though I was running around with my head cut off. We were growing. So then, financially, I was like, okay, I can pay my mortgage. So that stress was starting to go away and was able to start paying off some debt. And then it started to become clear of like what I wanted marketing to look like, what I wanted my staff to look like. I ended up moving buildings after that because I was like, this isn't where I want to be at. So I was able to really start thinking kind of big picture wise, and things were just starting to slow down for me. And the last 2 years now, we haven't made it, but I'm having a lot more fun. And I'm starting to be able to really think that big picture, the big picture of where I want to go and what needs to happen. And it's been a lot more fun and rewarding these last couple of years.
Oh, that's great. And we'll come back to that big picture in a minute. But what I want to talk about now is, you said, right, you got to where you wanted to with staff. Because, you start out grinding alone, right? But you got to pretty quickly build a team if you want to build something that's going to last, right? So talk about your approach to building your team, and maybe give us a picture of how you did that.
So when I first opened, because it was just my lack of experience, like when I was interviewing people, I'd basically be like, hey, are you licensed? Do you have any State Farm background? And that was literally like, if they said yes to either of them, like, you want the job. And I really shouldn't have been thinking that way. It should have been more of, what are the intangibles that I want to grow with? And so, and I had some great team members that worked for me. Honestly, all my team members that I've had have been fantastic. And I would say, looking back on a lot of the situations that didn't work, I took ownership on a lot of those. I could have been better. And some of my lack of experience and mistakes I made. So I never fully said, oh, this person's just not good. That's definitely not the case. But I will say my team is as strong as it ever have been now, because I interviewed asking, I think, the right questions, trying to find the people that fit me, my personality, we're on the same page of what I see the vision for this office looking like. And I didn't care if they were licensed at the time. And so that has allowed, just really for these last couple of years that I've had them, we've really taken off, and I'm having so much fun. I love showing up to work and being around them. And I truly feel like we're building a team. And that kind of goes back to the coaching. That's why I think State Farm, looked at me for this, is my coaching background, building a team, building a culture. And I feel like our culture is by far as strong as it's ever been, because of the people we've been able to hire.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that's such an important lesson for new business owners and leaders to understand. We've all heard it, right? We hire for the heart, train for the part. But yet, when we do our hiring, what do we primarily look at? Resumes, right? Which is all about the part, not the heart. And the sooner you get to knowing what culture you want to build, the direction that you're going, the kind of person you want to be around, now you know how to find that fit. You know how to find the heart and then train for the part. So within that, then, Matt, how have you had to grow as a leader as you're building this team and now leading a culture and not just a set of tasks that have to be completed for each client?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's something that you're always evolving and growing. You know, I just think that's, I like the term, that servant mentality. You know, you want to serve the people around you, be a great example. You know, I think those things, you know, I look, and another thing I want to talk about, some of the things that I noticed that some of my changes, and this is kind of off topic, but it kind of is, I think what has allowed me to become a better leader is, I would say about 4 years ago, I was not in good health. I was a year into my business, was not in good health, wasn't sleeping good, I wasn't eating good, wasn't exercising whatsoever. And my wife and I, ultimately, the biggest motivation was my kids. I was like, I'm telling my kids to eat good, I'm telling my kids to sleep, I'm telling my kids to exercise, and I'm not doing any of them. And the reason why I tell them to do those things is because I know it's going to help them reach their potential. I know they're going to feel good at school. So I'm like, I'm kind of a hypocrite. So my wife and I really had a conscious effort about 4 years ago, and we changed our habits. And I think by doing that, that has really allowed me to become a better leader. Because honestly, my focus is my faith, my family, and taking care of myself, my health, eating right, sleeping right, and exercising. If those three things, my faith, my family, and my taking care of myself, are in order, it allows me to be a really positive leader in my office. And so, you know, I just try to live that way. And then obviously we have processes in place here. I'm becoming more and more patient, you know, more loving to my team. All those things have just allowed me to become a better leader. I don't know anything specific other than, you know, I try to have my things in order and come to work every day and work hard and be a great example for them.
Yeah. I think that's something a lot of leaders can relate to. A lot of business founders is those early days, you only survive through work. It's like when I started my first business, I had a friend and mentor say to me, you know, welcome to starting your job. Welcome to starting your business. You can work in your business half days, the first 12 hours or the second 12 hours, right? And now, but we can't stay there forever, right? It's important to grind in those early years, but if you're not taking care of of the asset, then it can't last. I think of the literature now around happiness is that the four things you need are faith, family, friends, and meaningful work. And if you go all in on any one of those to the detriment of the others, you're going to be in trouble.
Yeah.
Was it for you, Matt? Was it like, what was it? What keyed you in and said, oof, I'm out of balance here. And if I don't fix me first, nothing's going to go right with the business?
My kids. I felt like kind of a hypocrite. I kind of felt like a little bit of a loser sometimes around them, to be 100% honest. I'm telling them to do all these things, except I'm not living it myself. So, you know, it's amazing what kids can do for you, you know, and they have changed my life and for the better. And I just wanted to be a great role model for them. I didn't want to have to tell them. I wanted them to see me doing it. And, you know, my wife and I have done a really good job of that. And we've seen some positive changes, obviously in ourselves, but in our family too. And so, I mean, to answer your question, my kids were the driving force for that change.
Yeah, that's great. Now, let's shift a little bit, right? Because you talked about, you know, basically loving yourself, loving your family, and then loving on the people at work through servant leadership. But let's also talk about the customers, right? I know that one of the things that right? When you got into that business first, you were fulfilling the transactions, right? You're getting the work done. You're providing a service. But at some point along the way, just share with us the realization that you came to that there's actually a bunch of little things that you need to get done that will make all the difference when it comes to how customers feel about doing work with you. Share that realization.
Well, so our biggest part of our marketing right now and our growth is referrals. Mm-hmm. And when that first year, I bet you I had maybe like 3 referrals the whole year. Well, now we're 15 to 20 referrals a month. And, everyone goes into a business. When you walk into a business and you can just tell the feel, the culture, when you walk in and they're like, hey, how are you doing? And just very welcoming. And there's just a feel to it. It's not complicated stuff. And then you walk into another office and it's like, you're like, oh my God, you feel like you're annoying everybody. And it's like, well, I want to be the one that feels very welcoming. So we're just really big on, how we answer our phones, how we say hello to people, making sure we let them know, thank you for your business. What else do you need? Really going out of our way, just little small things. It doesn't take much. It's not overly complicated. I think it's stuff we all know, but it's you have to talk about it a lot and reinforce it because that becomes the culture. If you go into a place where you don't feel welcome, well, it happened there for a reason. It's not being talked about. It's not being encouraged or addressed. And so it's something, when we meet, we talk about it constantly, reinforcing it. It's repetitive. But that's the culture I want from when people call my office, walk into my office. And it has paid dividends because of the referrals we get. People like coming to our office. They like calling our office. We have done a good job on the service. I think people are so concerned about the raw new business, which we are too. But it's like, if we're not taking care of the customers we have, what's the point? I want to bounce. Let's grow. Let's really take care of our customers. And I think if we can really prioritize both with great customer service, that's when the referrals come in. Referrals are free. And we close those. It's the highest close ratio we have of all of our leads. So those just little things I've talked about, it's just something we talk about every day. It's really important to me, and my team does a really good job with it.
Yeah, I think, that reminds me of Fred Reichheld, who's the founder of the Net Promoter Score, right? And he wrote a follow-up book that said, look, we're too obsessed with the score. And what he said is, essentially what it's about is the power of loving our customers. And that if we do that, they'll be so happy that they're going to refer us business. And so that building a business really starts with, like you said, keeping those customers happy.
Yeah, we don't have a job if they're not calling us, if they're not coming into our office. If they don't need service or they don't need to come into our office, well, I mean, what do they need us for? They could go with another company. They could buy it online. I think that's a differentiator for us, is that we're still local. People can stop into my office and we can sit down and go through their policies. There are times where it's like, is it a little much at time, or do you have some customers that are a little annoying? Yes, everybody has that. But if we didn't have them, we wouldn't have a job. So we need to be grateful for them, appreciative of them. And it's just really, really important to me.
And there was another key thing that you said there that I don't want people to miss. And that's that you said you're having to constantly reinforce it. Right? The first time as a manager, I told my team, just take care of the customer. All right, that message is taken care of. Right now, I don't have to go back to that.
Yeah. And
it wasn't long before I was hearing from customers that one of my employees, they were like annoyed. And I'm thinking, okay, I better sit down and talk to her. Like, I said, take care of the customer. Like, what wasn't clear about that? And what she said back to me, I'll never forget. She said, I could do their work a lot faster if they would just leave me alone. And that's when I realized, right, that was my failure to translate what that meant. And when I think of that, right, that the relationships that we build with our customers, that's our ultimate moat. That's our competitive advantage, because I'm guessing there's maybe one or two other insurance agencies in your area.
Yeah. And State Farm agents.
Yeah. Right. And it's more and more today, people can get our products and services in so many different places from so many different people, that it's the relationships that make a business strong.
Yep.
So how did you get to 15 to 20 referrals a month? What's the, beyond the just, making great connections with the customer? I don't want to make that sound easy, but what are the other steps you've taken to say, that's what we're after? Because as much as they love you, I can't imagine that also just happens by accident.
Yeah. I mean, so there are things that we do to promote those. So obviously it all starts with our customer service, and I think our interaction with them initially, or, if it's a current customer, we're servicing them. For new customers, we do have an onboarding process where we'll meet with them one-on-one. We'll go through their policies. We'll go through, claims processes, a lot of things that I think, this is the benefits me with no insurance background, is because I knew nothing. I had a buddy that was my insurance agent. I just trusted him. He did a great job. He was fantastic. And so I just always trusted him. I didn't know anything about insurance. Well, we have to assume people are the same way. So, we want to really explain how their policy works, how the claims process works. If they have questions, reach out to us. We're here for them. So it starts with that onboarding process. And then we'll bring it up. Hey, we really enjoyed doing business with you. If you know anybody else, we don't like put out a list of like, show me 5 names, but we just say, hey, I'd love doing business with you, Nathan. If you know anybody else, let them know, and we offer Whitey's gift cards for referrals. So we offer $20 Whitey's gift cards for anybody that refers business to us, which I go to Whitey's a lot now because I'm having to get more gift cards, which is a great thing. But I would say obviously it's the customer service, how we treat them, and then that onboarding process of just asking, bringing it up. We also send out text messages for anybody that has rate decreases. We'll just say, hey, at your auto renewal, your rate's coming down, 16%. Just wanted to share. If you know anybody else, that would like to save money, have them reach out to our office. So those processes that we have in place have really helped drive that referral program for us.
Yeah, great. Okay. So Matt, I know as we're growing, right, we hire people who are further and further removed from the founder or the owner, right? When we're right around that owner and getting to watch them interact every day, it can be pretty crystal clear what we're supposed to do to serve a customer. But we don't want to stay small. We want to have a bigger impact. We want to serve more people. So how do you balance that great customer experience with the growth that you want to have for your business?
Yeah. It's a good question, because it's really where I'm at as a business owner right now, year 5. We're really settling in right now, and things are going really well. But I mean, I do have a small team. I have 2 full-time employees and 1 part-time. If you look around most insurance agencies, that's really usually the setup. And then there are some bigger agencies that have done really well. They've got larger teams. They'll have 8, 10 salespeople, 3, 4, 5 service people, and I would love to get to that point. So that is going to be the next step, is going through that. And I think you talked about earlier, like a job that's fulfilling. Well, to me, a job that's fulfilling is like when I'm coming to work and I'm getting a little bit better and I'm seeing progress and we're making strides. To me, that's fulfilling. Like,
Yeah.
I could settle in right now, and believe me, I have at times. I'm like, you know what, this is great. I'm comfortable. Everything's good, and you kind of get settled in, and you start not to like your job. It's just It's not fulfilling, and it's not enjoyable, and so that's where I'm at right now. But there's going to be a lot of struggles with it. Is going through those growing pains. And I think we got to rip off the Band-Aid. We got to add some team members. The good thing is I do have the right people here that I think will go through it. But everything changes when you start adding people. And I'm thinking more internally than externally. I'm not too worried about the external part because I do think we have good processes in place, and I'm going to be very involved. But it's more internally of, your roles change. I mean, you add another body in here, the roles will change. Adjusting to that will be some challenges. So I have right now I have a service coordinator, and then I have a sales rep, and then I have a part-time person that does like beginning a day, like follow-up stuff for me. But I have this salesperson. He's a younger gentleman, and he is an aspiring State Farm agent. So my vision is I want to grow and add. I want to have 2 or 3 more of him and really be mentors and coaches to them. So that's going to be the next challenge in front of us, is getting the right people in here, and then figuring out the marketing piece, so we can get more leads, keep them busy, keep them happy. And then once we start growing more, that's where the service side comes. So just like what I went through those first few years of kind of the unknown and making mistakes, I'm guessing the same thing's going to happen. And we'll go through it, and we'll look at everything as a growth opportunity and learn from it and continue to get better. That's what I'm excited about, what's next. We're kind of in the process right now of kind of getting prepped for that for 2026.
Great. So the through line there is coaching, right? You want to get back into coaching more reps to come after you. And as their roles evolve, you're right? As an organization grows, if I'm adding somebody, well, somebody internally was already doing that job, right? So now you're changing not just the new person, but the person who's been there. So, and that means everybody, including you, right? So how will you have to continue to evolve to be able to lead a growing organization?
I just think the coaching. Because really before with the small team, really a lot of the coaching was we just figured stuff out. And then, then after the fact, we would be able to sit down and go through it. It was really kind of fun for all of us. And I'm like, I got the right people, and they're positive, and they're not looking at everything as the world's coming to an end. It's like, okay, we got an issue. Let's work through it. And I think as we grow, that's not going to be the case. It's got to be more structured, that like we do for our customers, that onboarding that we do. We have to have more of like that structured onboarding for our team members, and really defined roles and what you need to do each day. And that's the things that we're working on to get in place to add that team member.
Yeah. Okay. Then, as you said early on, you're learning from experience. But that can actually be a fairly painful teacher, especially as the business grows. And we're better off at that point of learning from other people's experience. So as you do that, as you're growing and leading a growing team, where do you get the coaching? Where do you get the support? Who are the peers that you're meeting with on a regular basis that pour into you?
Yeah. I think that's something that I probably need to be better at, is seeking that. I like to kind of figure things out. I do have other State Farm agents that I like to call and ask, and guys that I respect. And so, I'll pick their brains. But that is something that I probably need to embrace a little bit more, is kind of the self-coaching, the development as a leader, the development as a business owner. Because sometimes, you just you're sucked into the business, and you're working on it constantly or working for it, a lot of it too. But you're just really busy and you think you don't have time, but you do have time. And I do probably need to prioritize that more. But yeah, you kind of got me motivated to maybe seek out some more people. But I got other State Farm agents that I lean on a lot.
Yeah.
And, I really respect. And,
coaching takes a lot of different forms, right?
I think a lot of things that you go through, it's like, some of the coaching stuff, it's obviously every time I go to like a coaching event, I'm always going to take something. But if you think you're going to go there and learn how to run a business from going and listen to someone for 2 hours, you're crazy. Every time you go and listen to someone talk or, you take advantage of a training program, you should be taking nuggets. But at the end of the day, there's no better tool than going through it and just, putting your head down and going through experiences. And like I said, I'm kind of the king of learning things the hard way, and I kind of like it that way.
It's like the famous book from David Sandler, right? You don't learn how to ride a bicycle at a seminar.
Correct.
So then, Matt, this is the end here. What is that long-term vision? What do you want to build with your agency?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I would love to grow an office that develops other State Farm agents. I would love to be known for that in this area and within the State Farm organization is, an office that is developing and growing other State Farm agents. And through that, obviously we're going to grow our business, and I'll be able to scale our business, be able to afford more team members. By having more team members is going to allow more freedom for me. I would love to, I'm 45 years old. I'd love to have this office for another 25, 30 years. And, there's a lot of agents that, that have really built something special. They have a great team in place. They're still engaged, but they live in Florida. And they're able to, stay engaged because they've worked hard enough to build a large enough book that they can afford a big enough team. So that's the ultimate goal. Is I would love to be able to continue to grow this book so I can have, a large team for that freedom. And to piggyback off that, I mean, I just this last year have a son that's a freshman at Assumption, and he played up on the varsity team for golf. And I got to go to every single one of his golf meets. And I mean, they're during the day. I mean, he tees off at 9:00 on a Monday, noon on a Tuesday. And so they're right in the middle of the day. I didn't miss one golf meet. And, it's just a good reminder. That's exactly why I did what I did. I didn't have to put in PTO. Now, there's things I have to do afterwards and before, but that freedom is amazing. And ultimately, was one of the main driving forces that I wanted to do this.
Cool. Well, it's an exciting vision. I wish you all the best in chasing it. And Matt, this has really been a great conversation.
Yeah, it's been great. I appreciate it, Nathan.
Yeah. When I think of your story, I think of coaching and learning, right? Is that there's that through line of coaching of how a coach was very influential in your life, led you to be a coach. And now you're in the business coaching your teammates, and you want to coach more people to come along and come after you. And it's been inspiring to hear how dedicated you are to learning and growing along with the needs of the business. And if all of you, I'm sure all of you listeners, if you've enjoyed this episode as much as I do, make sure you subscribe on your favorite streaming platform so that you never miss an episode of Building Loved Businesses. Until next time, I'm Nathan Schock. And remember, don't stop building something that you love. Until next time, bye-bye.